The Legend of Kale and the Crystal Lagoon. In the heart of an uncharted rainforest, hidden behind a dense canopy of emerald leaves, there lay a place of wonder, the Crystal Lagoon. The lagoon shimmered with waters so clear they reflected the sky as though it were painted by an artist's brush. But the true magic lay beneath its surface, a radiant crystal said to hold the power of life itself. Legends spoke of the crystal being protected by the guardians, mystical creatures sworn to keep its light safe. Only those deemed worthy could enter the lagoon. For centuries, no human had set foot there until the day when the forest began to wither and its creatures grew silent. A boy named Kale lived in a nearby village. Known for his adventurous spirit, he spent his days exploring the edges of the rainforest. Kale often listened to the elders speak of the lagoon, but they warned him to stay away. One fateful morning, Kale awoke to find his beloved forest eerily quiet. The once lush trees were wilting, their leaves falling like tears. Even the songbirds had vanished. Kale's grandmother, the village healer, explained that the life crystal must be fading. Kale's heart swelled with determination. "I'll find the Crystal Lagoon and save the forest," he vowed. With only a small satchel of provisions and his grandmother's carved wooden amulet for protection, Kale ventured into the depths of the rainforest. The air grew thick with the scent of moss and damp earth as he followed the faint hum of the crystal's energy, which seemed to call to him like a distant melody. After hours of trekking, Kale reached a shimmering wall of mist. Beyond it lay the lagoon, its waters sparkling like diamonds. Standing at the edge were the guardians, an ethereal panther with eyes like glowing amber, a serpent with scales that shimmered like rainbows, and a great owl whose feathers glistened with starlight. The panther spoke first, its voice deep and resonant. "Why have you come, human? The crystal is not for mortals." Kale swallowed his fear. "The forest is dying. I want to save it. Please let me help." The serpent coiled closer, its voice like a whispering breeze. "To touch the crystal, you must prove your heart is pure. We will test you." The owl spread its wings, creating a gust of wind. "Face the trials, and we shall see if you are worthy." Kale nodded. "I'll do whatever it takes." For the first trial, the guardians led Kale to a grove filled with shadows that seemed alive. "To pass," the panther said, "you must conquer your deepest fear." Kale's heart raced as the shadows twisted into the forms of wolves, their eyes glowing red. He remembered the fear he felt as a child when wolves had once threatened his village. But then he thought of the forest and its creatures depending on him. Summoning his courage, he stepped forward, declaring, "You are not real. I will not be afraid." The shadows dissipated, leaving the grove bathed in golden light. The panther nodded approvingly. For the second trial, the serpent guided Kale to a pool of silvery water. "To pass," it hissed, "you must give up something precious to you." Kale hesitated, then reached for his grandmother's amulet. It had always given him comfort, but he knew the forest needed him more. He placed it into the pool, and the water began to glow, revealing a path forward. Finally, for the third trial, the owl took Kale to a high cliff overlooking the lagoon. "For this trial," it hooted, "you must trust in the unseen." Kale saw no way down, only a deep chasm filled with mist. But he closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and stepped off the edge. Instead of falling, he felt the air lift him as the owl's wings carried him safely to the ground. Having passed all the trials, the guardians led Kale to the heart of the lagoon, where the radiant crystal pulsed with a faint, flickering glow. "The crystal's light fades because the balance of the forest has been disrupted," the panther explained. "You must restore it with a piece of your own spirit." Kale placed his hands on the crystal, feeling its warmth seep into his soul. A soft light spread from his chest, merging with the crystal's glow. Suddenly, the lagoon erupted in a dazzling display of color, and the energy flowed outward, revitalizing the forest. The guardians bowed their heads. "You have proven yourself, Kale. The forest owes you its life." Kale returned to his village, where the trees stood tall once more, and the animals filled the air with their songs. Though he no longer had his grandmother's amulet, he carried something far greater, the knowledge that even the smallest actions could protect the world's greatest wonders. And so the legend of Kale and the Crystal Lagoon was born, a story passed down to remind all that courage, selflessness, and trust can bring light to even the darkest times. The journey across the Crystal Path. In the vast expanse of space, beyond swirling galaxies and shimmering nebulae, floated the luminous planet of Stellara. Stellara was a place of endless beauty, its skies painted with auroras and its valleys filled with crystal flowers that glowed softly at night. At its core lay a fabled structure known as the Crystal Path, a gleaming bridge that connected Stellara to the distant moon of Solara. The Crystal Path was not an ordinary bridge. It was woven from pure starlight, visible only once every 500 years during the alignment of Stellara's three suns. Legend said the path led to Solara's starwell, a mystical spring that granted wisdom and power to those pure of heart. For centuries, the starwell remained untouched, waiting for someone brave enough to make the journey. This time it was a young dreamer named Orion who was chosen. Orion had spent his childhood gazing at the stars and imagining the wonders of the universe. When the elders of Stellara summoned him, he was both nervous and excited. "You have been chosen to walk the Crystal Path," they told him. "The starwell's gift will shape the future of Stellara. Use it wisely." The night of the alignment arrived, and the three suns cast their light upon Stellara. The Crystal Path shimmered into existence, arching through the heavens, its steps glittering like diamonds. Orion stood at its base, his heart pounding. With a deep breath, he began his journey. As he stepped onto the path, a soft hum filled the air, and the stars around him seemed to dance. The journey was both wondrous and daunting. Orion clutched a small orb given to him by the elders. It was said to guide and protect him. Halfway across the path, a sudden shadow loomed. Out of the starlit void emerged the celestial watchers, ancient guardians of the bridge. Their forms shifted and shimmered, appearing as beings made entirely of light. "Why do you seek the starwell?" one of them asked, their voice resonating like a symphony. Orion steadied himself. "To bring knowledge and harmony to Stellara. Our people have grown divided, and I believe the wisdom of the starwell can guide us to unity." The celestial watchers examined him, their forms swirling like galaxies in motion. "Your intentions are noble, but the path is not for the faint of heart. To proceed, you must prove your courage." The watchers waved their luminous hands, and the path ahead transformed into a maze of dazzling light. Orion hesitated but pressed forward. The maze tested his determination at every turn, shifting walls of starlight, illusions of home and safety, and echoes of doubt. As he reached the heart of the maze, a memory surfaced, his mother's lullabies under the Stellaran sky, reminding him of the importance of hope and perseverance. Bolstered by the memory, Orion found his way out. The watchers awaited him at the end of the maze. "You have passed the trial," they said. "Go forth with our blessing." When Orion finally stepped onto Solara, he found the starwell nestled in a serene valley of glowing trees. Its waters sparkled like liquid silver. Kneeling beside it, he whispered his wish, "Let Stellara find peace and unity." The starwell pulsed with light, and a vision unfolded in the water, Stellara thriving, its people working together in harmony, its skies filled with joy. As the vision faded, the light of the starwell flowed into Orion's orb, imbuing it with the knowledge and power he sought. On his return journey, the Crystal Path glowed brighter, as if celebrating his success. When Orion stepped back onto Stellara, the people gathered around him, awed by the light emanating from his orb. From that day forward, Stellara entered a golden age, guided by the wisdom of the starwell and the courage of one young dreamer who dared to walk the Crystal Path. And though the path would not reappear for another 500 years, its legacy remained, a reminder that unity and courage could light the way to a brighter future. The quest for the Prism Gem. In the far reaches of a hidden galaxy lay the planet Azuron, renowned for its oceans that shimmered like liquid sapphires. At the heart of the largest ocean was the Crystal Lagoon, a secretive glowing oasis surrounded by jagged cliffs and a perpetual mist. Few dared approach it, for the lagoon was said to be protected by mystical guardians, beings of pure energy who ensured its magic was never misused. Rin, a young explorer from the floating city of Azuria, had heard tales of the lagoon from her grandmother. According to legend, the lagoon held the prism gem, an artifact capable of bringing light and healing to a world in need. With her home city struggling under a mysterious shadow that dimmed its skies and weakened its people, Rin decided she had no choice but to seek the lagoon and its treasure. Setting sail in her solar-powered skiff, Rin navigated treacherous waters. The journey was fraught with peril, whirlpools as deep as canyons and storms of glowing electric rain. After days of travel, she reached the misty cliffs that shielded the crystal lagoon. As her skiff entered the lagoon, Rin was awestruck. The water glowed with an ethereal light and the air hummed with a soothing melody. At the center of the lagoon stood a crystalline spire pulsing softly like a heartbeat. But before she could approach, three luminous figures emerged from the mist, their forms fluid and ever-changing like the surface of the water itself. "Why do you seek the prism gem?" one of them asked, their voice resonating like the sound of waves crashing against the shore. Rin stepped forward, her voice steady despite her fear. "My people are in peril. A shadow has fallen over our city, and the prism gem is the only hope to bring back the light and heal our skies." The guardians circled her, their movements graceful and deliberate. "The prism gem is no ordinary treasure," one said. "You must prove your intent is pure." The lagoon began to shimmer, and suddenly Rin was no longer on her skiff. She found herself on a path of glowing stones, surrounded by swirling water. Visions appeared in the waves, her family, her friends, and her city. Without hesitation, Rin answered, "Yes, for them I would give all that I have." The guardians reappeared as the visions faded. Their glow brightened and they nodded in unison. "Your heart is true and your courage undeniable. The prism gem will answer your call." The crystalline spire began to glow intensely, and from its peak a radiant gem emerged, floating toward Rin. As she held it in her hands, the gem pulsed with warmth, filling her with a sense of hope and purpose. With the prism gem in her possession, Rin sailed back to Azuria. Upon her arrival, the gem released a cascade of light that swept across the city, banishing the shadow and restoring the vibrant glow of the skies. The people of Azuria celebrated Rin's bravery and the renewal of their home. Though the crystal lagoon returned to its hidden misty shroud, the story of Rin's journey became a legend, a reminder that courage and selflessness could illuminate even the darkest of times.